Dirty Story Night. We are back again. Another dinosaur story written in only 30 minutes. Kristin is getting awfully close to that T-Rex. Before you give that a listen, though, we would like to recommend that you check out our parent network, IABDpresents.com, a great entertainment network based here in Columbus, Ohio, with podcast, written work, video, and more. This week, I'd like to recommend that you check out It's All Been Trekked Before, which is a weekly Star Trek rewatch podcast starting way back in the 1960s episodes. I know that's not a dinosaur, that's a baby, but anyway, you may hear her on the It's All Been Trekked episodes as well, if you're lucky. But now, listen to something totally inappropriate for a baby, Kristin Tickles T-Rex.
She regretted having bought the new black teddy and garter belt the second she opened her door. Fuck, she thought to herself. You must be... He began awkwardly. Yep, she answered flatly, stepping aside to let him enter her apartment. As he shuffled past her, she noticed the plastic bag in his hand, and she made a mental note not to let it out of her fucking sight until she knew for certain that it was not a bomb or flowers. She really hated flowers. The man she knew only as Trek So Horny, second mental note to not accept clients with so specific fetishes anymore. He sat on her bed, the bag at his side, and he looked up at her expectantly. So, you said you're just into hand stuff, right? She said, taking a few careful steps toward him. Yes, he replied, just hand stuff. He glanced down at his lap and back at her. She allowed her eyes to glance at his crotch. If anything was happening down there yet, it had not shown itself. She took a bracing breath and sauntered seductively over to the stout, sweaty stranger before dropping slowly to her knees. Okay, Captain, she purred. Let's let Khan out of his cryogenic chamber. She gave him her best submissive yeoman eyes. He stared back blankly, before reaching for his zipper and pulling it down slowly. She reached into his pants, found the flap in his boxers, slightly moist, she was disappointed to discover, and fished around until she finally found. She mentally apologized to Khan for her earlier comparison. Hoping he was at least a fast shooter, she started to get to work, wrapping her hand around his Tootsie Roll, the fun size. They should not call it that. Can you use your right hand? She looked up at him sharply. You've got to be shitting me, she thought. It's more sensorially pleasing to me, he said. She pushed down the instinct to give him a quick death grip before she released his dick and grasped it in her right hand instead. Without a word, she began pumping her hand up and, oops, too far, it slipped right out of her fist. Taking it back in her hand, she made tiny up and down motions, being careful not to let her hand stray too far. She looked up. The man was fishing something out of that fucking plastic bag, and her heart started to pound. He pulled his hands out of the bag, both balled into fists. She could not tell what he had retrieved, but she was not taking her goddamn eyes off of his hands until she knew what was in them. She barely heard it at first. Na 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 na. Na, 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 na. Right as the familiar melody sank in, the man opened his hands slowly and revealed 2 tiny T-Rex figurines. He moved them slowly toward one another, and she felt his tiny pecker give a telltale jerk as their snouts touched gently. Oh, so gently. Her misreading of his username suddenly dawned on her. Trek So Horny. T-Rex So Horny. Oh, fuck, Anna thought as she watched the spooge begin to drip over her 3-fingered hand. The end.